Nobody asked Xiaomi to make a car. Nobody asked a smartphone company, a company famous for affordable phones, earbuds, and home appliances, to step onto the same stage as Porsche. Nobody expected a brand that most car people didn't take seriously to walk into one of the most competitive automotive segments on earth and immediately cause one of the most established performance brands in history to look over its shoulder. And yet, here we are. The Xiaomi SU7, a car that arrived in 2024 and sold out almost instantly. A car that generated over 100,000 reservations within minutes of going on sale. A car that Xiaomi's own CEO, Lei Jun, drove onto a stage and described as the most beautiful sedan in the world. A statement that would have been laughed out of the room coming from anyone else. But somehow, looking at the Xiaomi SU7 doesn't feel entirely wrong. And the question that the automotive world cannot stop asking, the question that Porsche executives have been forced to address publicly, which tells you everything, is this. How does the Xiaomi SU7 compare to the Porsche Taycan? How does a smartphone company's first ever car stack up against one of the greatest electric performance cars ever built by one of the most revered automotive brands on the planet? The answer is uncomfortable for Porsche. Let's get into it. Before we talk about the numbers, and the numbers are genuinely stunning, we need to talk about what the Xiaomi SU7 actually is. Because understanding what Xiaomi built with the Xiaomi SU7 is essential to understanding why the Xiaomi SU7's existence matters so much. The Xiaomi SU7 is not a compliance car. The Xiaomi SU7 is not a technology demonstration or a brand awareness exercise or a limited edition vanity project. The Xiaomi SU7 is a genuine, full production, mass-market performance electric sedan, developed over 3 years with a reported investment of over $10 billion in research and development. Built on a proprietary platform with Xiaomi's own in-house motor technology, Xiaomi's own battery management system, and Xiaomi's own operating system deeply integrated throughout the entire Xiaomi SU7 experience. Xiaomi did not outsource the Xiaomi SU7. Xiaomi did not badge engineer an existing platform. Xiaomi built the Xiaomi SU7 from the ground up. And Xiaomi hired some of the most experienced automotive engineers in the world to do it. Engineers from BMW, from Mercedes, from Porsche itself. The Xiaomi SU7 is the product of Xiaomi going all in on one of the most ambitious product launches in the history of the technology industry. If this story has you locked in already, hit subscribe right now. We cover the moments reshaping the automotive world every single week, and this one is one of the biggest. Now let's talk about the performance, because this is where the Xiaomi SU7 gets truly serious, and where the comparison to the Porsche Taycan becomes genuinely, uncomfortably relevant. The Xiaomi SU7 Max, the performance flagship variant of the Xiaomi SU7, produces over 1,008 horsepower. The Xiaomi SU7 Max covers 0 to 100 km per hour in 2.78 seconds. The Xiaomi SU7 Max has a claimed top speed of over 265 km per hour. Let those numbers settle for a moment. The Porsche Taycan Turbo S, Porsche's own flagship electric performance sedan, a car that Porsche spent years developing and positioned as the definitive electric performance machine from one of the world's greatest sports car manufacturers, covers 0 to 100 km per hour in 2.8 seconds. The Xiaomi SU7 Max is faster by a measurable, documented margin. A car built by a company that had never made a single automobile before 2024 is quicker to 100 than Porsche's most powerful, most expensive, most technologically advanced production electric sedan. And the Xiaomi SU7 Max does this while costing approximately half the price of the Porsche Taycan Turbo S in the Chinese market. Half. The Porsche Taycan Turbo S in China sits well above 1 million Chinese yuan. The Xiaomi SU7 Max starts at around 800,000 yuan less than that. The Xiaomi SU7 is not just beating the Porsche Taycan on performance. The Xiaomi SU7 is doing it at a price point that makes the Porsche Taycan look like it belongs in a different conversation entirely. But raw performance numbers only tell part of the story, because the Xiaomi SU7 doesn't just compete with the Porsche Taycan on the spec sheet. The Xiaomi SU7 competes with the Porsche Taycan on technology. And this is where Xiaomi's background as a technology company becomes a genuine, structural competitive advantage. The Xiaomi SU7's infotainment and operating system is years ahead of what most traditional automotive manufacturers are offering. The Xiaomi SU7 runs Hyper OS, Xiaomi's own deeply developed operating system, which integrates seamlessly with Xiaomi's broader ecosystem of devices. The Xiaomi SU7 screens are sharp, fast, and intuitive in a way that feels native rather than bolted on. The Xiaomi SU7's over-the-air update capability is sophisticated. The Xiaomi SU7's driver assistance systems are comprehensive and genuinely functional. Traditional car manufacturers have spent decades treating software as an afterthought, a checkbox on the feature list rather than a core product competency. Xiaomi treats software as its native language, and the difference between a technology company's approach to in-car software and a legacy automaker's approach is immediately, viscerally apparent the moment you interact with the Xiaomi SU7 systems. The Porsche Taycan is a magnificent piece of automotive engineering, but the Porsche Taycan's software and connectivity experience, by most accounts from journalists and owners who have experienced both, does not match what the Xiaomi SU7 delivers. In the era of the software-defined vehicle, that gap matters enormously. And then there is the design, because nobody expected the Xiaomi SU7 to look like this. The Xiaomi SU7 is genuinely, undeniably beautiful. The Xiaomi SU7's long hood, fastback roofline, and sculpted flanks give the Xiaomi SU7 a silhouette that reads as expensive, considered, and athletic. Multiple automotive designers have noted publicly that the Xiaomi SU7's proportions are outstanding. The Xiaomi SU7's interior is clean, premium, and thoughtfully executed, not the plasticky, cost-cut environment that skeptics expected from a first-generation product built by a consumer electronics company. Xiaomi clearly studied the competition obsessively. Xiaomi clearly understood that to be taken seriously in the automotive world, the Xiaomi SU7 needed to look like it deserved to be taken seriously, and the Xiaomi SU7 does, conclusively. So what does all of this actually mean? What does the Xiaomi SU7 beating the Porsche Taycan's numbers actually tell us about where the automotive world is going? It tells us that the walls around the traditional automotive industry, walls built over a century of manufacturing complexity, engineering heritage, and brand equity, are no longer as high as they once were. It tells us that a technology company with sufficient capital, sufficient ambition, and sufficient engineering talent can enter the automotive space and immediately produce a product that competes at the highest level. Porsche is not finished. The Porsche Taycan is still an extraordinary machine, a car with a depth of dynamic experience, a heritage of driver engagement, and a brand story that the Xiaomi SU7 simply cannot replicate with a single product launch. Porsche ownership is about more than specification sheets and 0 to 100 times. Porsche knows this. Porsche is banking on this. But the Xiaomi SU7 has done something that cannot be undone. The Xiaomi SU7 has proved that the performance numbers are no longer Porsche's exclusive territory. The Xiaomi SU7 has proved that the technology experience is no longer legacy automotive's strongest card. And the Xiaomi SU7 has proved that Chinese manufacturers are no longer playing catch-up. The Xiaomi SU7 is not chasing Porsche. The Xiaomi SU7 has pulled level. And the Xiaomi SU7 is only the first car Xiaomi has ever built. Think about what comes next. Subscribe and drop your take in the comments. Does the Xiaomi SU7 genuinely worry you for Porsche, or does Porsche still have something no spec sheet can touch?